This conference will now be recorded.
All right, let's get started, friends. A very good morning, and thank you for joining. Okay, welcome to every one of you. Am I audible, loud and clear?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, a very good morning or good evening, wherever you are. So, introduction. I think most of you might have already attended the demo. You know that my name is Kiran. I have about 10 years of experience. I worked in DevOps and SRE roles. SRE stands for Site Reliability Engineering. What is it? I'll talk to you in the course of, I mean, in during our course, what SRE means, Site Reliability Engineer means. Okay, so I have worked on both AWS and Azure. Okay, equally, and also a bit on DigitalOcean. Okay, so I am a certified Kubernetes administrator. You might have heard about Kubernetes. So I passed that certification. Yeah, that's about me. Um, and Coming to the course, how are we going to do this course? As you know, the class starts at 6 a.m. IST every day, Monday through Friday. Okay, Saturday and Sunday we are generally off unless there is some, you know, specific requirement that we need to have a session because something was delayed. Okay, and obviously, just like any of you, I might also not feel well on a particular day and take a day off. That's understood by every one of us. um, okay, so yeah, Monday through Friday, we'll have classes from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. IST. Okay, um, some ground rules like what how we discussed in our demo. I don't feel, I mean, uncomfortable when you interrupt me whenever there's a question. You don't have to wait till the end of the class or end of the topic. Whenever you have a question, you can interrupt me. Maybe not in the middle of the sentence. Yeah, and we'll try to keep it mostly hands-on. I'll try to. I'll show you how it's done in on the console, all the on the command line. Everything is mostly done practically, and also I'll assign you some activities every day after the class that you are supposed to do. So only then you're going to get good understanding. Okay, if I mean, it's better to complete activities as soon as I assign, so that the next class would be more, you know makes more sense for you if you complete the activities. Unless you do anything, you don't gain confidence. When I say do, when if you don't practice whatever topics we discuss, you would not have the confidence to move on to the next one. Or even you will not be confident whether you understand it uh, correctly or not. Okay, only once you do, you might get new questions. You might have many many things running in your mind, and these will be cleared. If you don't practice, you think you understood everything, but it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, after a month or so, you are going to simply forget about it. All right. Yeah. So before I go, so I just want to give you some approach on how I teach. Okay, because I use a set of tools, so you should not be confused about them. All right. So firstly, my laptop is not a Windows laptop; it's a Linux laptop. So the UI is slightly different, but of course everything is same. Okay. So I generally use Google Drive to share my documentation, or sometimes I also make notes on GitHub, which I share with you. Okay, you don't have to learn about GitHub or anything; just you can download those notes. Okay, that's the first thing. And well, yeah, if you're thinking about the classes are recorded and the recordings are shared every day with you. Um, Particularly for those who cannot attend on a day or two due to whatever issues, they can definitely access these things. Okay. um, yeah, so primarily the tools I'm going to use is, you'll see this GoToMeeting window very often. This is my, you know, uh, regularly, obviously, I don't have a client in Linux, so I have to use Chrome browser. And then for logging into our services like AWS or anything, I'm going to use Firefox browser. Okay. And also presentations are run from Google Drive, so you will see Firefox a lot. And I use this note taking to this is like a simple text editor, just like your notepad, but with nice themes and all. So I use Atom to write some random notes, or to discuss what we are going to do today, or so on and so forth. Okay. So this is the this is another tool you're going to see very regularly. Okay. And when we are going to talk about programmatic access, how do we use command line programs or run some programs, I'm going to use my terminal, which looks like this. Okay. I mean, don't worry about this now. We're going to learn in detail, and you're also going to use Git Bash on your machines. So then you're going to understand how it's going to work. Okay. Then if we have to write any code, I use Visual Studio Code, which is again just like your Atom, where I'm taking notes. But why am I maintaining two separate tools? So that this is specifically for my code, and this is specifically for random note taking, or writing something, so that you could clearly understand what I'm saying. Okay. um, that's another tool I'm going to use. And within the online tools, for example, I might use a tool called as draw.io. If I have to explain some architectural aspects or something by drawing some pictures, I'm going to use this one and draw some pictures. Okay. So yeah, mostly these are the tools I toggle between. Okay. Firefox, Atom, and Visual Studio Code, and a bit of the terminal whenever we have to do the terminal side. Mostly we are going to dwell in our Firefox, opening our, you know, what do you call our AWS console, and doing the stuff. But again, whenever we have to write some notes, or whenever I want to share something, first I'll write it here and put it in the chat. Okay. Sometimes I might give you a link to a particular notes which you can download immediately and copy to your local machine. Okay. um, yeah, so the reason I'm telling you about all these things is you should not be confused when I toggle, because when we work, we move between different windows. So you have to have an understanding like which window is what. So that's why I'm telling you these things. Okay. That's those These are the tools primarily used by me. My terminal, my Atom, which is a note taking tool, Firefox for other apps including AWS or any other service we are going to use. All right. Okay, so we talked about the approach, how we are going to have the classes Monday through Friday, and as I told, I just want to keep it as active as possible, so you can interrupt me at any minute, anytime, and ask me any questions. Okay, and also if you have any observations or any comments about anything you read or anything, you're feel free to you can feel uh, free to ask me. Expectations, actually, this is okay. All right. Um, any questions so far? Okay, yeah, let's move on. So expectations from this course. So as we already discussed in the um, demo, this course is mainly aimed at empowering you to become a someone like a cloud ops engineer or a DevOps engineer. But yeah, DevOps encompasses a lot of other things. So this will make you more familiar with AWS. Okay, then you can choose your path, whether you want to be specifically AWS specific engineer or learn other AWS tools as well. And also we are going to primarily focus on in terms of learning the in-depth practical part, we are going to focus on IaaS services, infrastructure as a, because this is where you have the maximum management work to be done. Okay, so we are talking about VPCs, which is a virtual private cloud. We're talking about EC2 instances, which are virtual machines offered by AWS. We'll talk about S3, which is a serverless concept, storage. We're going to talk about RDS, databases on Amazon. We're going to talk about Lambda. Okay. Of course, within each of these topics, for example, VPC, we have a lot of other things to discuss. Within EC2, we have a lot of other things to discuss. Okay. I mean, a lot of subtopics to discuss. We have identity and access management. How do you give access to others? How do you know, control permission, what permissions others have? All these things we're going to discuss in IAM. Okay. And of course we are going to discuss about other services, but in a theoretical sense only. Okay. We are also going to talk about Route 53, which is a DNS administration. We're going to talk about automation. How do you automate creation of these above services or any services? So we'll talk about command line interface. We'll talk about cloud formation. Okay. As I said, for us to understand how EC2 understands how load balancers work, okay, you need to deploy some application and test it through your load balancer and stuff like that. Simple web application. Okay, so for that we are going to learn about we are going to learn a little bit of Linux, because predominantly Linux is what is used in the um, servers, right? So Linux operating systems, particularly we'll learn about Debian or Ubuntu rather, and a bit of CentOS or Red. Okay, so this um, the, a bit of Linux. How do we connect to a Linux VM? Um, how do we install an application on Linux? All these, how do you copy files? All these small things we are going to learn, and further you can expand yourself on learning Linux. Okay, so these will be the key crux of our course. Okay, and each of them, as I said, will have a lot of subtopics to discuss in detail. And of course we'll also discuss what other services, for example billing. Oh yeah, and we are going to discuss monitoring part also, CloudWatch. Okay, then we are going to discuss other services like how does AWS billing works. Okay, um, and what are the various developer services used for developing applications. uh, what are the management and security applications. Okay, we are going to discuss all these things in theoretical part. Okay, of course billing is obviously theoretical part because you just need to understand how it works. All right, in each of these sections I will talk about what could be the possible questions you can get at the certified solutions architect associate. uh, this is the certification you could aim at after this course, but as I said, our course is more inclined towards getting the working knowledge rather than the theoretical knowledge. Okay, so you will need to have you'll need to study a bit after the course also on all these services, and particularly some of these services which are not going to go in depth. Okay, you'll need to study on these things, but I will, wherever possible, I'll refer to what could be the possible questions we can get for a certified solutions architect associate exam. All right, questions?
Any prerequisite knowledge for certification other than these topics?
Not required actually. No, not required. I mean, as I said, even after the course, you'll have to, study for like, let's say 10-15 days thoroughly of all the services and all their use cases. See, we're going to talk about all these services, but the questions will be like, what is the best approach? Okay, how do you understand this? So there are some white papers that you can study. There is a concept called as well architected framework. That also we are going to discuss.
Understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Sir,
Yep. Yeah, you can call me Kiran. No need to call me sir. That's fine.
Kiran, actually, I'm from a mechanical background.
Mhm.
Can I get through all these things? It's like these things are very new to me.
Okay. So mechanical background is like you're already working in that domain, or?
No, actually, I'm into this government field. I'm working on it.
Mhm.
Not working, I'm preparing from government. But it's been since 3 years I'm into this government field.
Mhm.
So willing to learn some, willing to do a job, learn some exposure. So I started this course. Can I get through
Okay.
this all things?
Yeah, definitely. This is like, we begin from very basics and we'll discuss all the basics. Um, so definitely this is going to be a plus for you, no matter which field you have, because everyone everywhere is using cloud in some parts or the other parts. Okay.
Okay.
Um, but how does it help you in mechanical, if you still stick to your mechanical area? I'm not sure how it's going to help immediately, but definitely this is going to be, I mean, from a learning perspective, this is not going to be difficult. That much I can say.
Thanks, Kiran.
Sure. Any other questions? So I'm not sure if a curriculum was already shared with you, but just give me a second. I'm going to share the curriculum so that, I mean, I've refined the curriculum from last time because I've added some activities and all these things. I'll also ask this curriculum to be shared with you so that, I mean, I just want you to understand what we are going to learn from this um, session. Give me a second.
Hi, Kiran.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kiran, I have just so I'm currently working in IT itself. So I'm in support area. I
Hmm.
wanted to like I mean the employment has been ending. It's going to end in next 2 months.
Hmm.
So I'm looking to switch towards cloud and have
Hmm.
just the basic knowledge like how cloud works because we have a small billing system on the AWS.
Okay. Okay.
So, do you recommend to go through this course, or is it something like do you recommend any other one that you teach, like maybe specific to job, like only like I mean towards the switching of these jobs rather than going through the fundamentals kind of
Okay. So when you say you have basic knowledge, you have worked on any services, or is it
thing? Yeah.
just some?
So yeah, so actually, we do. I mean, our team has accounts on AWS. We are like an end users in the AWS.
Hmm.
We have S3 buckets where we will be placing our files, and every month
Hmm.
I need to generate a utilization report, which is like an automated report on AWS, and I need to extract it into a SQL database. So
Right. Right.
that's what current things I'm doing. Um, so
But you haven't worked on any services like EC2 or
uh,
VPC.
no. I mean, we have an EC2 instance, but I haven't worked on because that's a different team. They are altogether
Okay.
taking care.
So yeah, this is what I can say. This is going to be a very good first step for you, but you should not stop here if you want to kind of enhance your career. But for the starting step, this is going to be great. This course is going to be great. But if you think you can, kind of, I mean, I'm not sure how your organizations, you know. Job positions are set, or how you can find an internal job, and what could be those requirements for internal jobs. That's up to you to find out, but I can say this will be a very right course for you to begin with, because we're going to go in deep in many services like we said, and that will give you a nice overview, and you can put yourself, like, you can say that not only in the cost and usage report from the last few years, or how so
Okay.
much ever your experience is, you can say that you've been working on EC2, you've been working on RDS, VPCs, and you can talk about architectural styles and all these after this course. Okay, so you could say you have worked thoroughly on AWS as a production support engineer, and you can look for jobs like cloud ops engineer and other things online.
Okay, Kiran. Yeah, that's what my question was around. Yeah.
Yeah, there is another
And
course which I teach, which is Azure with DevOps. That's particularly about Azure, and we discuss
okay.
we discuss DevOps tools along with Azure. Like we discuss Terraform, Ansible, and other things in that course. Okay, but this is primarily focused on AWS and AWS services, not any other services or third-party services like DevOps tools in this course.
Okay, so is the Azure classes also parallelly, or is it something that's going to start?
Sorry, could you repeat?
I'm sorry, is the Azure class that you're teaching, is there something a fresh batch was started, or is it something that's going to be started the coming weeks? Or...
Yeah, it will start in coming weeks. Not sure how long it will take. Maybe week or maybe a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Okay. And Kiran, I don't know if I could ask this. So is there something like a personal email we could reach out to you if anything like any other questions kind of thing? I mean, I don't know, discussing like whatever my personal requirement in class wouldn't be helpful, I guess.
No, let's do this. Okay, I mean, I'm going to set up some calls maybe later, or maybe towards the end of the classes we could use when we complete a topic early on a particular day. I'll dedicate the last 5-10 minutes for the questions, and others can drop off or stay on the call. See, it's not like only you are going to benefit; others are also going to benefit, even if it's a personal question. That's fine. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. All right. So. This is the detail. I mean, I've just mentioned some parts in my notes, but this is the detailed curriculum. Okay, I mean, this is the updated one. Maybe you might have a little outdated one. This is the updated one. Okay, so what we are going to learn. So the initial classes are going to be about introduction to the course, training approach, tools, and used for training, which we already discussed, and then we'll talk about setting up your account and all these things. Again, don't think that we will go in a serial manner, like one after the other. We might switch order because as per the logical approach, I'm going to teach not in the same order. Okay. So then IT architecture overview, what are data centers, networks, and virtualization, a little bit on that.
Yeah,
Am I not?
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, let me share it. Okay. Yeah, sorry. So this is the document. I'll send it across to you, all of you. Okay. This is the updated one. You might have an outdated one if you have received the curriculum one. Okay. So data centers, networks, and virtualization, a brief on those things, and a brief on the IT architecture. What is a 3-tier application? What is an N-tier application? And what are various hosting models, or how your infrastructure can be maintained, or whether you can use someone else's infrastructure or your infrastructure. That's what we cover in hosting models. Then we of course switch to AWS and understand AWS infrastructure. What is an account? What are organizations? We take a look at AWS services, the number of services that AWS offers. Then we talk about AWS physical and networking layer, shared security responsibility model, how the security works in cloud generally, and identity and access management. As I said, how do you give access to someone to access your AWS account, particularly when you're working in an organization? How are you given access? Okay, and if you are a DevOps admin, or if you are going to be DevOps admin, how are you going to give others access to AWS services and resources? Okay. So generally we'll talk about what is access control management or identity and access management, and then what is RBAC, role-based access control, and we'll talk about understanding the permissions and what are policies, particularly in AWS, creating users, groups, and also roles. There are activities for each subject as far as we can create. Okay, so then we'll talk about storage services. Simple storage service, what are the various options available, okay, and activities related to those things. Then we'll talk about VPC. Then we'll talk about compute, or EC2 instances, virtual machines. Then the automation part. Then we'll talk about simple notification services, Lambda, and DNS management. So if you have a website, how can you route your traffic to that particular website, or make sure your web application is showing up whenever someone goes to, let's say you have a website like kiranops.com. how do people reach to that website, whatever website you have created. Okay, so we're going to talk about DNS and Route 53, which is an AWS service. We have a couple of activities here, and we are going to understand databases. About RDS, we'll go in depth, and DynamoDB will do a overview session. Okay, and then we'll talk about management and governance services in AWS. This means we are going to talk theoretically about multiple services. So is the case with developer services and network and content delivery services. Okay, security, identity, and compliance. What are the various options available, including IAM? Okay, then we'll talk about well-architected framework and cloud best practices. Towards the end of the course, of course, I'm going to give you a mini project. Okay, which you can. I mean, last week, before start of last week, when we are going to go to these topics, these theoretical concepts we are going to discuss, I'm going to assign a mini project, and I want you all to submit that task to me in the last week. Okay, so that's the part. So some of the common questions people ask me: do I share resumes? No, I don't. Do I conduct mock interviews? No. But if you have, if we have enough number of people who wants to have a mock interview, I can do it over I can do it over a weekend. Okay, so just for the mock interview perspective, I can do that. No worries. But sharing resumes, or some people ask me questions like, do you do fake interviews, or you know m- mock interviews are fine. Fake interviews, no. I don't have any resumes, or I cannot share any of them. But if you create your resume and want to share it with me on one of those days, I can definitely take a look and see what can be, mm, how it can be improved further. Yeah, and no dumps. I don't have dumps. I have prepared some notes. Definitely I'm going to share notes for each of the services we're going to talk about it. Okay, my notes is kind of work in progress. Every new batch I try to add in new document, or edit the new document. But definitely I'll share those documents with you. All the um, you know all the services we are going to discuss, there will be a corresponding notes for them. Okay, so that you can quickly refer. I'll try to keep it as detailed as possible, and also give the uh, links to other online documentation, for example AWS documentation, or any other links you might need. Okay, so yes, notes will be shared, but not in terms of dumps. For example, like what people get like 100,000 questions for AWS exam, and they just by heart and come to the attend the exam. I don't like that approach either, and I don't want to do any of those things, sharing dumps or anything. Okay, and also, as I said, it's not mostly focused on the certification. It's mostly for you to enhance your skills and be job ready for AWS market. Even if you are a developer, even if you are a tester or a production support person, you know, you will, or even a fresher, you will all have a nice advantage uh, when you have practical knowledge more than just theoretical knowledge for certifications. Okay, certifications are good, but in the interview, they will try to understand the practical implementation perspective and how do you approach a particular problem, right?
Yep.
So that's where we are
Uh,
focusing on. Yeah, go on,
so,
please.
no, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So, will you be showing like how we do it through AWS, or will it be mostly theoretical? I mean, as part of the course.
No, we will do all these things
So,
practically,
okay,
hands-on.
okay.
Yeah, most of the, yeah. So if I take you to the, where is my documentation? Where is this? Okay, let me show you. So all these services till the database part, okay, we're going to do it, and also you are going to do it. Not only I am doing in the class. The next day you will have to do the same thing in your own account. Okay,
Okay.
And these are the things where we are going to talk theoretically, but some of these things, for example, in network and content delivery, we're going to talk about cloud formation and all. Yeah, in fact, I did not add CloudWatch. CloudWatch is a monitoring service that also we are going to do it practically only. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, cool.
And I heard that
Mhm,
while doing the AWS batch service or Lambda, we use KMS,
mhm.
key management. So you
Yeah,
would
I'm not
also.
touching no, I'm not touching key management service. Maybe I'll give you an overview. The reason is I want it to be as simple as, I mean, in the sense, simple in the sense, I don't want to make it overwhelming for everyone to understand encryption and all these things at the same time while you're learning the basics. Okay, so you could later on understand how KMS works. Okay, what is encryption and how do we use keys and all that. But not making it really complex in our batch. So we are not using KMS as of now.
Okay.
Yeah, we are going to use all these IAM roles, IAM policies when accessing multiple services. For example, we'll do some demo where we'll use Lambda plus S3. So there we'll talk about IAM roles, and we will do another demo where we are going to use um, S3 plus EC2. There we'll understand how each services can be, how one service can be given access to another service and all these things, but not KMS as of now.
Okay. And
Yeah.
this include cloud formation. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
see.
we are discussing cloud formation. It's part of the automation.
Okay.
Is it not there? It should be there. Yeah, if you go to automation, so we're going to talk about AWS CLI. How do we install,
Okay.
configure,
Got it.
and what are profiles? How do you filter something? How do you query something? And cloud formation. What are the resources? How do you create cloud formation? Yeah, without cloud formation, I mean, there's no much, you know, um, I mean, the automation itself is happening on cloud formation, right? From AWS perspective. So we have to learn that. Otherwise, it's more like you are a, you know, admin rather than a cloud ops engineer or AWS engineer. So cloud formation, yes, we will spend good amount of time on cloud formation. And after learning cloud formation for any future practices, we are going to use cloud formation only to create resources. And I would also expect you to do the same. Maybe after we discuss about VPC and EC2 in detail, we'll go to AWS CLI and then cloud formation, so that you can start creating resources using cloud formation after that particular part.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Of course, I did not add any activities under automation because day in and day out we are going to use them after that portion is discussed. All right. Any other questions? Okay, let's do this. We still have about 20 minutes. Okay, so I'll try to get to know each of you during the course of our classes, okay, in the next few weeks. So yeah, we'll have introductions separately, but right now, let's go through IT infrastructure. Just I'll run you through how IT infrastructure works. Okay, just give me a second. I'm going to stop sharing and another thing is, I mean, not only, I mean, there is no particular pattern, but I will give you assessments, simple multiple choice questions within the class time only, like first 10-15 minutes, you will be asked to do a assessment, online assessment. And I mean, of course, it's a scored one. You might have some points like 20 or 15 points in the assessment. You will have 10 to 15 questions or sometimes 10 questions. So you just need to answer them. I mean, I will do it through Google Forms only.
One question, like what is the course duration? Every day 1 hour, and how many
Yeah,
days?
so it will take around 6 to 7 weeks, Venkateshwar.
Yeah, 6 to
Yeah,
7 weeks.
yeah.
Okay,
I'm trying to keep it short, but yeah, um, you know, it will definitely
and
take 6 weeks because we have a lot to cover.
understand. Yeah, Monday to Friday,
Yeah,
1 hour every
Monday
day.
to 1 hour every day. Yes, exactly. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, let me pause for any other questions. And again, folks, there is no simple or silly question. Every question is a question. Okay. um, and we are all learning, including me. Okay, there's always something new to learn for me. It's not nothing is like, a given. Like, even today I make mistakes even on the demos, or something might have changed in the AWS console, or something has been updated. So we all learn, we all, you know grow. So there is no silly question or, bad question. Every question is a question. Okay, so feel free to ask whatever you have in your mind. Never hesitate about that. Okay, even, as I said, everyone is learning, including me, and um, so you don't have to feel, is it a dumb question, is it a silly question? Nothing like that. Okay, you can ask whatever you comes in your mind. That's the only way you can learn. Okay, if you think that this would be a too silly a question, no, yeah, you could Google, but if that doesn't completely answer your question, or that doesn't completely help you understand, you can definitely reach out to me and ask me. All right. Okay. Mm, shall we move on then? Let me start sharing my screen. All right. So IT infrastructure. Um, so this is going to be very basic introduction about IT and infrastructure. So information technology infrastructure is a set of IT components using which organizations run their IT services. Okay. So it's basically set of components. It involves physical components, computers, networking hardware and facilities, but also various software and network components. So some of the software components also come under the purview of IT infrastructure. So as I said in the demo also, there are three kinds of resources in information technology in IT. Okay, compute, typically your servers which perform computing. Okay, physical or virtual servers are the prime resources in compute. Okay, um, which have a processor and a RAM, which are connected to storage. What is resource? What is network? Sorry, network is nothing but any resource that connects one computing device to another computing device. It could be a wireless device, it could be a LAN cable, it could be a switch. Switch in the sense, there are networking switches where you can connect multiple devices to a single device, and that single device will take you to another device. Okay, for example, LAN, a local area network, or wide area network. Subnets, firewalls, networks or virtual networks, load balancers are some of the network resources. Okay, so have you heard about LAN, WAN, and MAN? Okay, um, so let me give you a short overview of that one. Let's say you're an organization running in a you have let's say you're a startup running in a single or a small company running in a single city in a single building. Okay, and all the various, let's say this is a single building and multiple floors. Oops. Or maybe multiple buildings side by side. So when you have all the devices connected to one another, this becomes what we call as a local area connection, local area network. Okay, you might have different devices here, here employees are sitting, here might be your networking room. Okay, here also employees, here also employees, everyone has their desks and LAN cables connected. Okay, so this becomes what we call as a local area network. Let's suppose you have different building complexes within the same city. Let's say, oops, Okay, this is in different part of the city, this is in different part of the city. Okay, you have different buildings separated from distance in a same city, and if these buildings have to be connected together, right, all these buildings need to have one-to-one connectivity, and they have to act as if they are in the same network, meaning all resources have to be accessed by other resources. When you have such a setup, this is called as metro area network. Okay, this is a networking concept. We don't have to go in depth, but just giving you an overview. Let's say you are a big organization like TCS, which has a building in Adibatla, which has another building in Gachibowli, one building in High Tech City. So when you have different buildings and these all devices have to be connected together, that becomes a MAN or metro area network. Okay, but what if you are even a bigger company like JPMC or Citibank or Google? You have your offices all across the globe, right? Not that TCS doesn't have, but let's take a big example like Citibank or Facebook or Google. So when you have offices all around the globe and you connect to these offices through a single network or a wide area network, that becomes WAN or wide area network. Okay, so that's part of your compute example. Storage, any resource that store data, typically your hard drives and associated device. Okay, sometimes, see, everything has to be stored on some type of medium. It could be an SSD drive or a group of SSD drives or a magnetic drive, the old IDE hard drives we used to use, or it could be a magnetic tape as well, even older version. Okay, but on top of it, there might be some software which will make it look like a simple storage service, or a it might appear it like it's a simple database or whatever it is, but underlying everything there are hard drives. Okay, and there are object stores also. Object stores in the sense, things like your Google Drive where you directly upload your documents, but again underneath them you still have some kind of medium like an SSD drive or a you know magnetic drive. Okay, sometimes storage is embedded with computers like root volume in servers. For example, storage need not be always a separate component. There is always at least a single drive in virtual machine which is embedded or fixed with it. Apart from that hard drive, you might also connect your external storage devices. Okay, these are the three categories of IT components. Any component that you could think of, a router or a load balancer or a firewall, would fall under one of these three categories, right? Okay, let's move on. So they work together. It's not like these three are different components. When you look at them, you have to work with all three of them together. Okay, when you don't say that, okay, I'm only working on compute or something like that, because all these three things together becomes your IT infrastructure. Okay, even if it's not invisible in every area you accept, in every field in IT, of course these three areas are there in the background. Okay, if you think about a simple web server, for example, here you have the configuration in this way. It is attached to a firewall, and then underneath it there might be some actual physical servers which will create it into multiple virtual machines. Okay, okay, so how do you uh, create, or how does um, applications work? What does it mean that what does it mean for DevOps engineers or cloud ops engineers about IT? Okay, so before we go there, let's talk about the hosting models. Okay, or infrastructure models, right? Like you have the first thing is you run your own data centers. It's called as on-premise infrastructure. Okay, on premise in the sense on your premise, but it need not be always within the same location. It could be a different location. For example, Citibank might have its headquarters in, let's say, Seattle, or that doesn't mean their servers are all entirely located in Seattle headquarters only. They might be spread across uh, different regions. Okay, but what on-premise infrastructure is means that organization itself maintain their own data centers. What is a data center? We already discussed in the demo. It's a collection of all these resources we talked about. the computer, the physical servers, okay, the network cables, the routers, all these things are put in a big data center, and it is constantly protected. All the virtual machine, all the servers are constantly cooled using some cooling solutions. Okay, there is two or three more three network connections to your data center, and what else? You have redundant uh, network connectivity, meaning you'll have more than one network provider. You might have AT&T and Verizon, or if it's in India, it could be Airtel or Tata, both of them together. Okay, so you need to have redundancy figured out. Redundancy meaning the same service offered by someone else, so that even if one of them fails, the other one is readily available for you. Okay, so on-premise infrastructure is where you have your own data centers. You manage them. You in the sense, of course, you will have a data center engineering team, which will be responsible for fixing these servers physically, connecting them, and also making it available over the internet. That's the on-premise infrastructure. A lot of the traditional companies like banking services, or auditing companies like, let's say, KPMG, Deloitte, all these things also have some sort of on-premise infrastructure. Mostly banks are very banks have very strong regulations, so very rarely they have infrastructure on cloud. Even if they have, only some part is there on the cloud. Mostly it is there on on-premise infrastructure, okay, or their own data centers. The second one is, of course, the cloud model, where you don't maintain any data centers, you don't maintain any infrastructure. You directly create some resources for you from the cloud and start accessing them. It's like you're renting them, okay, and after you can continuously use them, or based on your demand you can scale up, scale down. Scaling up is nothing but increasing the capacity of your resources or number of resources. Scale down is decreasing the number of resources. So in cloud you can do this, and you could also expand very very quickly. We talked about cloud already. And the third one is the hybrid model. Okay, so like I told you about big organizations, like, so many companies are moving to cloud. That's obvious, right? That's why we are all here. Particularly startups, they host all their data on cloud. They don't want to maintain their data on their data centers and spend a lot of money. Okay, as I told you in the example in our demo also, for example, let's think Flipkart, right? If Flipkart wanted to start their own data centers, uh, okay, that would have been a big blocker for them, because they would need millions of rupees to start a data center, to start their application. Instead, what they did was, they said, okay, we have the idea, we have the um, programming and everything. We have the programmers to create the application, but we don't want to take the headache of creating our own data center. So they completely went into AWS cloud. So Flipkart's infrastructure is completely hosted on AWS. So today, even if you take Netflix, not only startups or Flipkart, like e-commerce chains, Netflix, for example, which is the number one internet streaming application, right? It's also completely hosted on AWS. Okay, and what is this hybrid model? Like I said, there are organizations like auditing companies, or banking companies, or insurance companies, which have a lot of regulations in terms of moving their data out of their own data centers. Okay, so there are a lot of compliance requirements from government services and all these things. So, but they still want to maintain some of their services on cloud, to take advantage of the cloud pricing and all these things. For example, their public website, where they put regularly publicly issued documents and all that, that need not be a that need not be a protected data, that can be public for everyone. So they can host such applications on cloud. So when you have some set of components, some services running on your own data center and some services running on cloud, that's called as a hybrid model. Okay, so most likely you have these three types of infrastructure. Okay, on-premise infrastructure, cloud, and hybrid model. And in any of these models, you still might use some third-party SaaS applications. Okay, I talked about SaaS, right? SaaS is, like, for example, you want to you want to use a payroll service that is readily available, then you could go for something like Zoho or Hevit, where they manage your, they give you the portal, and you can simply log in, and your HR team can upload the documents without having to maintain your own servers and all these things. Or something like LinkedIn Learning, or Yammer, where you want to have a social media site for your own company, but you don't want to create your own website. Okay, but you want to have this should be accessible only to your organization. So you can create Yammer, which they will give you an admin account, and you can give others access to Yammer. So no matter what kind of infrastructure you're using, there will be some kind of SaaS applications every organization is going to use on a different level. Okay,
I
apart from
have a
these, there might be, yeah, please go on.
So you mentioned data centers and clouds are two different entities. Am I right?
Yes, yeah.
I couldn't understand that data centers are also cloud, right? So let's say
Yeah,
Microsoft.
yes, I'll tell you. Data centers are managed by yourself, meaning the organization itself. For example, when I say on-premise infrastructure of Citibank, for example, I mean to say that these infrastructures are maintained by Citibank itself. Okay, when I say cloud is also nothing but collection of data centers. But all these data centers are managed by whom? Here, Citibank has to maintain a data center engineering team who are responsible to manage this data center. But in terms of cloud, let's say Citibank is a customer of cloud, then Citibank will not maintain any of the data centers of Amazon. They're not responsible to see how the data centers are secured and all these things. They will simply log into the portal, or through some program, create some virtual machines for themselves, and start using them. Okay, here it's virtualized. It's not the physical infrastructure that you're going to maintain. Okay, the data centers are maintained by Amazon. You're just going to create some resources for yourself and start using it.
Even in first data centers are managed by the organizations, right? You are telling that there also we don't need to maintain these data centers, right? Let's say we have a providers, as you mentioned in the second case, we have the providers. There we can host our services and everything, right? They will provide the infrastructure. We don't need to maintain the those data centers and all.
Yeah,
so
that's the idea. Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
No. See, that's what the world is doing today. You're giving your infrastructure management overhead to someone like AWS or Azure, and you're simply focusing on building your applications. But back in the day when the cloud was not there, people were building their own data centers. For example, if you talk about JPMC or KPMG, which are big companies, so they created their own data centers. Okay, or even banking companies like Citibank or NatWest, NAB, different regions, you take any regions, they have their own data centers. They did not depend upon AWS or
yeah, I understand that concept. Maybe that term is making confusing, I think. Maybe those are
what
not
term.
called data centers. They may be called their own server rooms or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking that when you said
Okay.
data centers means, I'm working in a one data center company. Okay. Large provider data center. So they all think this is a cloud. So previously they don't call those, let's say what you said is correct actually, before cloud and all. They have
Okay.
their own infrastructure at their server, they call server rooms or something they used to call actually.
Okay, so I'll tell you, I worked in on-premise infrastructure before I moved to cloud, or I worked in combination of both, in a hybrid model also. No one calls it server room, at least not on the official call, not on the
So
troubleshooting calls. They'll call it, see, they'll call it as London data center, okay, or New York data center, okay, Atlanta data center, but no one calls it a server room, because server room is
I
like
understand.
when you're talking about so when you talk about a server
Server.
room, it's more like in your offices there might be a single server room which is actually getting the data from your data centers. It's only to relay the data. Okay, so the right term is data center and not a server room. Definitely not a server room. Okay, server room is a very simplistic term, and again, as I said, I worked in a hybrid model, and I hear people talking about it, and they never say it's a data center server room issue. They say there's a data center, there's an issue in London data center, or there's an issue in some other data center, but they will never say data center 1, data center 2. They might have different names, but they never say what do you call server room. This is the right terminology. Okay. In cloud, yeah, cloud is also a collection of data centers, but we are focused on regions, which region you're creating your resources on. Okay, the underlying data, who is managing your physical infrastructure, that depends. Okay, in case of on-premise, the organizations themselves maintain the data centers. In terms of cloud, okay, you're not maintaining any physical infrastructure. You're not responsible for their cooling. You're not responsible for keeping the power on. Everything is taken care by AWS or Azure or Google or DigitalOcean. All that you need to do is just log in and create your resources and start using them. Okay. In hybrid model, you have some servers on your own data center, some resources on cloud. You can combine them and use them. All right.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so
No
much.
worries. Yeah, and you also have some past things. For example, of course, you're already using AWS, but even in that case, you might use some past solutions like something like Heroku, which is a or Adobe. What is that? There is one tool for content management. Adobe OEM or whatever it is. Okay, there is one content management tool where you want to maintain your websites. Adobe will maintain your infrastructure. You just need to upload your code. Okay, or Saba Cloud or a lot of other things.
Adobe Experience Manager, AEM.
Yeah, Experience Manager, AEM, correct, or not OEM, AEM. Yeah. It's more like a SaaS, but it could be also thought of as PaaS or some managed databases. Okay. Okay then. So we are at the top of the hour. So we're going to tomorrow continue our IT infrastructure class, and we're going to talk about AWS accounts tomorrow. All right. So maybe after the tomorrow's class, you all can create AWS accounts and get ready for the future classes. All right. Any questions?
We have to create AWS account with our personal ID.
Yes, please.
Am I right? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. It's a free. It's going to be a free tier account. Okay. You'll have to. Yeah, you'll have to create a free tier account. You need a debit card for that. They will not be charging any money, but they might charge some like 2 rupees or $1 based on where you are, and that will be refunded immediately. It's just for your verification.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Kiran. Very nice.
Thank you, Kiran.
Full session.
Sure, Venkateshwar. Yeah. You're welcome. Any other questions? All right. If you do not have any questions, we'll wind up here and talk to you all tomorrow.
Okay. See you tomorrow then. Bye, guys.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Thank you, Kiran. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day or good evening.
Kiran, you there?
Yes.
Actually, I'm the mechanical guy who I said earlier.
Yeah, Murli.
These things seems to be very, very new for me. It's like I'll never get these terms in my mechanical subject.
Obviously, right? Computer science is different from mechanical.
Yeah.
And even those who studied, so let me tell you, even those studied, software, computer science in their engineering, They might also not, because our education system is more based on theoretical part. They might also have
Yeah,
never heard of these terms. So don't worry, it's
yeah,
not like computer science students know all these things. They also
okay,
only know about Java and how to do it on their machines, but they never think beyond that. Okay. So yeah, take your time. Think about, because I don't want to rush you. You think about what's more apt for you. Okay.
okay,
And yeah, let me know. Maybe attend a couple of more classes.
okay,
All right. Okay then.
yes,
Thanks everyone.
thanks.
Thanks, Murli. Bye.
Bye.